Okay, hello and welcome everyone. I am thrilled to be here and happy to see you all. I'm Andrea Kopilak. My company is Connect to Flourish Coaching, and I am an internationally certified coach with the International Coach. I'm a coach with the International Coaching Federation. That was a mouthful. And I specialize in positive psychology or well-being. So as you see today, I am also a facilitator. As a coach, I work with primarily women to work through times of uncertainty, whether that be professionally or personally, so that they can really connect to their innate strengths. So what is it about you that makes up who you are, and align those strengths with your values, what's important to you, so that when you're faced with times of uncertainty or challenges, you know what you need, and you can tap into those things that make up who you are, that give you positive energy, that allow you to move forward with a sense of trust in yourself and belief, so that you can take small steps in the direction that you want to go. A little bit about me. I've had my share of uncertainty in my life, and I'll just give you an excerpt in my mid-20s of just 1 year. Just before 2001, it started with my car got stolen. Fast forward to January, I was mugged outside of my apartment. Fast forward to September, I worked across the street from the Trade Center on 9/11, and I wasn't there that day. Fast forward to December of that same year, I lost my job. So a lot of uncertainty happening there, right? And at the time, I had support from people in my life to help me move through it, and I'm grateful for that. I'm also grateful that I wasn't there that day. And as I look back at just that window of my life, I can notice what my strengths are. Gratitude is a strength that I have that helps me through times of uncertainty, making a shift in what I choose to think. Also, during that time, I was getting my master's. Love of learning is actually a strength that I have that gives me resilience. So that's just a small snippet of what's possible. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do we harness strengths in business, right? And what we learned today, you can apply to your personal life as well. Because there isn't any client that I have that comes to me for business. We always wind up talking about something personal because this is life, right? And life has both.
Is it working?
No. That's okay. Little technical difficulty. Take a breath. Adaptability is another strength. Being able to pivot, right?
Right.
Okay, and so what will we cover today? We're going to go over the benefits of cultivating our own personal strengths for yourself and even for those around you, because when we are connecting to our strengths, it impacts the people that are with us. We'll do a little exercise. That's why you have folders in front of you. There's a printed out exercise that will help you kind of connect to and notice some of your strengths. And then we'll just briefly, because this is what I do as a coach, is really to explore what possibilities might exist for you in leveraging your strengths as you look to reach your goal. And I know right now in November, lots of people, and myself included, are planning for the next year. So it's a good time to kind of take a step back and look in and notice, what is it about you that gives you positive energy. And we'll talk about some other indicators of strengths as we move on.
What about just the arrow on the?
Yeah, try that. There we go. I'll just use the screen. So I want to back up. I mentioned that I specialize in positive psychology. I want to introduce what positive psychology is and what it isn't. So it's a fairly new science. And in 1999, Martin Seligman, the president of the American Psychological Association, noticed that psychology, looking back, had primarily been focused on what's wrong with us and how do we fix it. And he said, moving forward, we're going to look at what we do as human beings, and this is an important word, what we choose to do freely as human beings that helps us connect to our potential so that we can flourish, so that we can have a sense of well-being in our lives. So what is this science? It is striving for our optimal potential and well-being. It is fostering a mindset, what we think, what we believe, that is hopeful. It is choosing to recognize that at the end of the day, we're all human. And that means that we experience the same emotions at one point or another in our lifetime. So we share that common humanity. And in addition to that, we all have these innate strengths that we are born with, that we have the capacity to tap into at different times in our life. And we also have the ability to develop further with effort. And then finally, I'm going to add, values is there. What's important to us, right? When we're making decisions, are we noticing and thinking about what's important to us and what strengths do we need to move forward? And all of this helps us build resilience, which is also a positive psychology topic. And there are so many others. You'll hear mindset, you'll hear courage. There are lots of other topics that fall under positive psychology, but I wanted to just introduce you so that you have a sense of where I'm coming from. As a coach, positive psychology informs the questions that I ask during a session and some of the work that I do around strengths. So strengths-based is Martin Seligman came up with this idea of this motivational group of strengths that are ubiquitous across cultures that help us move forward. What positive psychology is not? So it's not only feeling positive and pushing away the negative. That's toxic positivity, right? As we said, like part of our common humanity is just the fact that we all feel all kinds of emotions, negative, positive, and feeling them is part of it all. And how we move forward is our choice. And it's not also that negative emotions are bad. We need them. So there is this idea that strengths elicit, or the science tells us, it's not really just an idea, the science tells us that strengths elicit positive emotion. And there is so much research on positive emotion. In fact, Barbara Fredrickson is the leading researcher when it comes to positive emotion. She's done years worth of work around it. And she says that positive emotions, what she's found is that they broaden our perspective so that we're open to new possibilities when we feel them, right? And then as a result, we're able to build resilience to move forward. So this using our strengths, especially whether it be in work or business, enables us to tap into that so that we can move forward. And when we think about, I don't know if you can see here, part of the work that she's done is saying for every negative emotion that we feel, if we go to this ratio of 3 to 1, feeling 3 positive emotions, then our chance for well-being is even better. That's kind of the sweet spot. So how do we work towards feeling 3 positive emotions for every negative one in our day, in our week, however we can? So she also highlights 10 positive emotions that are pretty common. Anybody want to take a guess at what they are?
Would you say love?
Yeah, love is definitely one of them. Anyone else?
Positive only, you said?
Yeah, just 10. So there's 10 positive emotions that kind of feed us and help us broaden our perspective so that we can build resilience.
Empathy?
Empathy. Empathy is important. It helps us with connection. It's not one of the 10, but close.
Good vibes.
I'm sorry?
Good vibes.
Good vibes? Okay, what gives you good vibes? What think of joy. So we have love and joy. Gratitude. Do you ever stand outside at something so beautiful that you just can't even believe what you're seeing?
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling that you get in that moment that you can't believe what you're looking at is real? A sense of
Appreciation?
it could be awe or appreciation. Yeah.
Amazement?
Actually, amusement is one of them, right? Sense of humor, laughing, and it's okay to do that here. In fact, I forgot to mention that, everything in here is an invitation. This is not something that I'm saying, this is the way it is and you have to do this. No, it's an invitation for you to explore, for you to think about, and you could take it or you could leave it, and that's okay. So, and also if you have questions, please feel free, to follow up. And okay, so back to positive emotions, because we took a little side turn. Interest is another one. Inspiration is another. Curiosity is, yeah, that's important, and I'm not remembering whether or not it's positive emotion. I gotta be honest. And I'm just gonna read them to you at this point. Once I find mine. Let's see, where do we go? Oh, serenity, pride, and hope. How did I forget hope? Yeah, so all of those, and the reason I bring them up and name them is because we feel some of those emotions when we are using our strengths. So based on what we talked about so far, or even just based on yourself, look at somebody next to you and have a conversation about what you think your strengths are. And how do you know what they are, if at all? So just pick somebody next to you and just have a conversation. Like, I think one of my strengths is,
You've been here before, right? I've seen you. Discipline. Strength.
I try to be like kind of positive. What about you?
Okay, for the third is
I know.
necessary good communication.
Yeah. What is your business model?
I'm a
Yes. Okay, so yeah, for you too.
That yours, each.
I feel the same. I like just meeting someone.
Yeah.
That you
Definitely.
patience,
Just friends.
But
Yeah.
coaching,
Patience.
whether you're studying for coaching.
Just
Yeah.
what else?
I feel like I try to find a little
Being
tidbit of, like, meeting someone who
being a good,
else.
being able to communicate.
What's
Yeah.
your
Yeah. Honest, forthright, all that stuff.
Like just
Okay.
For coaching?
Oh, okay.
all right, great.
I was like, I heard my name, it's all hard.
Great, let's come back. So what did you come up with? Anybody want to share?
Yeah, we said discipline, creativity,
Okay, great.
honesty, patience.
Wow, you're really good at this already. Anyone else want to share what came up for them?
Truth and patience, resilience,
Is there one?
persistence.
Yeah, great. Great. So I'm going to just take a step back and define what a character strength is, because that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about things that make up who we are, that are our personality traits. Their capacities, like I mentioned earlier, that we have the ability to tap into. We might not always tap into them when, right away. And that's what this is about. It's about noticing it so that we know that we can, right? Ubiquitous, they're universal across cultures. So what Martin Seligman did is he gathered philosophers and scientists and psychologists, over 50 people together in a room to look through history and come up with 24 character strengths that fit this this idea, or this set of traits that we can all have access to at different times in our life. And they categorize them under 6 virtues. And that is, that's offered by the VIA. It's called the VIA Character Strength Assessment, and I'll talk about it again later on. And it's one of the many assessments that are out there that can help you recognize what your strengths are. However, what you just realized is that you already know. It's just choosing to think about and notice what it is about you. And they typically exist across time, as well as align with positive outcomes for you. So times in your life where you were resilient, right? Looking back at your story and looking at those times that I was struggling, what helped me get up and move forward? So there are certain indicators that signify when we're connecting to a strength. So when I'm coaching with somebody, I can kind of tell when they're talking about something that they're excited about or proud of, the way their energy changes, that it's a strength for them. So strengths, when we're using our strengths, it gives us positive energy. It's tied to who we are. So imagine if you had a core strength and you couldn't have that anymore in your life. If you felt like, well, I just wouldn't be me, then that's one of your strengths. It's natural to us. And how many people here have ever started to do something and, all of a sudden realize, oh my gosh, 2 hours went by. Where did the time go? Right? You lose a sense of time. Asami, I'm going to wonder, I'm going to go ahead and make a guess that creativity is one of your strengths, right? Obviously, I know that, but and here's the thing: she could have surprised me and said, actually, I don't see it that way. I see it as something else, and that's okay too. And over time, something that you can develop with effort, and again, the choice. Benefits to you. So when we think of our strengths, why, especially in the workplace, do we invest in going ahead and spending this time, like here today, right? What researchers showed is that when people are using their strengths, when you are tapping into something that gives you positive energy, you're more motivated, therefore, your performance is better. You're likely to flourish. You have a higher level of well-being in your life. You are engaged. like I said, that idea of losing a sense of time, being in a state of flow. You have increased satisfaction and maybe even a sense of meaning at work. Meaning and purpose are tied together very closely. Not only does it benefit you, but it benefits the people around you. You are likely to have others feel more optimistic when they're around you. Be inspired to do something. Even help other people. And as we talked about, when we feel positive emotions, all of a sudden we open up to possibilities. Instead of thinking, oh, I can't, we think, I wonder about that. Maybe I can. Right? There's that hope in there. So we're going to take a minute to do a little more reflection on a time that someone else was at their best, maybe at work, maybe at home, maybe in your community, maybe something you belong to, maybe here at HAYVN. And think of a time that you noticed somebody and you thought, gosh, they are really shining. And maybe you were even inspired or motivated by them. When you think of that time, what comes up for you? Do you notice if you experienced any benefits? What did you walk away thinking and feeling? So take a few minutes to just kind of talk to the person next to you and see what comes up. And if you can't think of something right away, that's okay too. Maybe it's a time that you were. Maybe you can come up with a time that you felt like you were at your best.
Yeah.
Just as a spectator,
I get that.
the energy was
I would say,
next
Yeah.
level, and you see so many people like what accomplished this.
Fire and like a strong desire for that community building. That like.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's one of the big ones here. Especially like the way people know ins and outs of what's going on. How much they've done.
There's sometimes like I come home from an event and I
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. I think for me, it would be when I go, sometimes when I go to like lectures of doctors or people that are in like the health space, and I listen to them lecture about stuff. And it's, I think the benefits I get from that, or it makes me like, I want to learn more about that, especially if they talk about something that's new to me. It's like, I'm writing down notes so I can remember and then Google it, and, you know what I mean? Like, so I think for me, I like trying to listen to people that have more knowledge than I do and what I do, so that it just makes me better for my
Be more inspired and to seek more knowledge and like. So for me, especially when I when I have like my workshops and through meditation, and especially when we do vision boards, and we always share at the end, and then just each and every single one of them like sharing stories, and we open up and sharing, their hopes and dreams for the future, and just we all kind of like, like feel our energy just rising to that hope. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. What do you like to shoot? People or architecture?
Yeah, but you were so discreet that it was kind of like, I looked over and
Floated,
yeah.
that's great. Oh, no, I didn't miss anything. No, I saw, I missed the probably intro. Okay. It's the board that's thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Welcome back. So what do we want to share as a result of our discussion? Anything?
Well, okay, so we said, well, you can,
Yeah, we overall, I think, feel inspired and, just more empowered.
Mm.
Like we raise each other's energy
Yeah.
by just having that positive thoughts and sharing that experience. You know,
It's contagious.
Yeah, does anybody have a reaction to that? Even more specifically, did anyone notice how they felt as she said that?
Enlightened.
Enlightened? That'd be great.
yeah.
Yeah. I noticed as she said that, I actually felt taller. I did. I felt uplifted. I felt taller. Anyone else notice? It takes a practice to start to notice, right? What's going on for us. And that's also part of this process of kind of connecting to our strengths, is building self-awareness.
Mhm.
And kind of learning to care about ourselves. And there's something to be said about that. When you start to care about yourself the way you care about the people you love in your life, things change, things happen.
I think as women, I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but we don't tend to ourselves enough. We're maybe because we're nurturing, but it's always like making sure that everybody else is taken care of or happy, or don't make waves, just keep, and I think sometimes we forget that the things that we want, sometimes we put on the back burner for others, maybe, relationships, kids, spouses, whatever.
Incredible. And so Linda, in those times when you feel like there's something that you want really bad, but yet you want to help this one and you want to do this for this, and what strength can you connect to that can help you just get one step closer, if anything?
Maybe gratitude, in the sense that you have people in your life that love you and need you, so.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share something?
Well, I think you use the word infectious when someone has passion. If you want to speak about that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
When someone has passion about what they're doing, you were saying you get very inspired and you can't go to sleep when you get home, and
Yeah.
it's infectious. It sort of opens up, a piece of you.
Yeah, thank you. So I heard infectious. I also heard contagious, right? Yeah, thank you. So what about in leadership, right? And this could be leading at work. It could be leading at home, because we're leaders. We're the leaders of our own life, right? It's all about our perspective. Once we know what our strengths are, then we can stop and think about them, and reflect. And that takes time, and it takes a choice, right? And however it is that suits you in doing that, right? You might love to paint, or you might love to write, or you might love to think in the shower, or you might love to run and exercise, and when you exercise is the best time that you think. Whatever it is for you, once you start to notice that, then you can make that reflection part of your regular practice. And then, once you know what your strengths are, and you're thinking about what's going on in your life and what you want and what choices you have, you can decide how you want to act and move forward. And then I'll throw something else in there. And that is the other thing that I work with clients a lot on is to identify what's important to you. What are your values? And this kind of work, knowing your strengths and your values, it all helps you to align with what's important for you so that you can act and feel good about when we're living our values. That's another, how do you feel when you live your value? I don't want to tell you. How do you feel when you make a decision that is really in line with something that's important to you?
Happy.
Yeah.
Happy.
Empowered.
Invincible.
Invincible.
I love that. I love that, because that's really what this is all about. It's about harnessing the good in us, right? So that we can move through when times are uncertain. And I don't know about the rest of you in the room right now, but for me, times feel really uncertain on a lot of different levels. So this is the time to do this work. And especially, Linda, like you said, especially as women, right? And what I love about this place is it gives us the ability to come together and do it together. So we're not alone. And then here's something that is food for thought, this last piece. We tend to be with people who are just like us. When it comes to strengths, to find balance, we have an opportunity to seek people who are different than us, who have different strengths than we do. Because then when we come together, we're a little more balanced, especially in the business world. And again, it's an opportunity and it's also an invitation. So how can you trust yourself to know when you need to be aligned with someone like you and when you need to be aligned with someone with different strengths? And I talked earlier about the VIA strengths and how they're set up with different virtues, and then there's 24 in the light blue boxes here of 24 character strengths that we have the capacity in different situations to kind of tap into. I like to think of them as there are some things that we just walk around with in our bag that are our essentials, right? And then I also think of books, right? There's some strengths that are kind of like books on a shelf that when something in life is happening and we think, oh, I need to learn about that. Oh, I have this book. Let me go pull it out. It's kind of just, strengths are just like that if we remember that we have access to them. So here are some of them. And note, another thing I want to say is, again, this is an invitation. You might say, I know that I have, someone said strength of discipline. That would translate to perseverance here probably. But there might be a strength that you have that you know that's not on here. And that's okay too. Because anytime you take an assessment, again, how do you trust yourself to say, oh, this feels right, or this doesn't feel right, or, oh, this stings and that means I have to think about it. So the way that the VIA is broken down to, the values in action, is what VIA stands for, is wisdom, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, there it goes again, temperance, and transcendence. So those are the virtues, and the strengths that are aligned with those virtues are here, and they're also written in your sheet with your exercise that we'll look at later. I'm not going to go through all of them. But here they are up close, and that is creativity. We talked about curiosity, Paula mentioned earlier. I talked about love of learning. Linda or Asami, you guys said something about honesty. And there's also zest, right? Teamwork, leadership, and as well as lots of others. Self-regulation, gratitude, we talked about, hope. And there might be others as well. So just a reminder, how do we know what is a strength for us? What are those indicators? Anybody want to read them out loud? Because I've been talking for a while now. Or anyone want to remember or add something? How do you know when something's a strength for you?
The feeling of feeling good.
Thanks, Monica. Yeah, that feeling. I love it. I love how you said that, because she's like, that feeling of feeling good, like emphasize. I know it because I can feel it.
It's interesting too how if something makes you feel in a negative way, if you get anxious or something, but also it's almost the same feeling when it's a positive, something that drives you and gets you really excited. It's almost like, I think Mel Robbins talks a little bit about it. So how if something makes you nervous or anxious, it's the same response as if it was a positive. So she tries to say, look at it from a positive standpoint versus And she's talked a little bit about that, but I think
That's great.
it is sometimes interesting, right, when you get really worked up because you're so excited about something, like you said, you can't sleep, or you can't, but it
Yeah.
can be the same thing if something is affecting you in a negative way too, like you can't sleep, or you're just kind of amped up, so.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. And there is a difference, right? How do you feel when someone is worked up? Because you can tell that it's something that they're really passionate or excited about. How does that make you feel as a witness to that? Anyone?
I think you wanna like match that energy.
You wanna, yeah, it's, you just tend to reflect that positive energy. Maybe not, maybe, some days we are where we are, and that's okay too, right? That's what this is about. It's about saying today, I notice that here's where I am, and this is what I need. So we are going to think about, I noticed that some of you were talking about your own strengths during this story earlier. So we're going to expand on that or begin that. The purpose of this exercise that we're about to do is to determine what are the character strengths that make up who you are. They're known as your core strengths. Another term for them are signature strengths. And basically, they serve you in a meaningful way. So this exercise here is just to kind of brush the surface a little more and look at what some of your strengths may be. So what you're going to do is, if you open up your folder and pull out the exercise, your core strengths, you're going to reflect on a time that you behaved in a way that made you proud. It could be at work, it could be in a leadership role in a community, in your community, whatever works for you, or whatever comes up for you. It could be at home. And you're going to write down the important aspects of your actions and what made you feel proud. And then you'll see the list of VIA character strengths. I like to use those initially because they're simple. But feel free, if something else comes up for you, to write your own strength in. And then just reflect on how you know it was a strength. So this is about 7 minutes. Okay. So we'll come back and feel free to continue this on your own at home. Feel free to think of other stories and other strengths. I do this with clients. I have them look at their life story and I have them look at their values and strengths. But here, let's just talk about what your takeaways are from this exercise and anything surprise you, any strength come up that maybe you didn't see yourself as having. Forgiveness. Thanks, Paula. Do you want to share anything about it, or is that good?
I could talk about it. I
It's
think
up to you.
forgiveness from both ends, from a work perspective with me and a client. We just hadn't discussed properly, like payment and such, so when I had quoted them after the project, they then were like, we don't have that money, we're not gonna pay you, and I was like, well, you were content with the service, like, I think we can find an agreement here, and then ultimately, they did agree to what I initially quoted at the end. But like, I think naturally, my old self probably would have just like spiraled and like been upset about it and maybe just been like case closed, like I don't know how to go about it, but I spoke up for myself, I talked about it, was willing to work through it, talk through it with them, because it's a relationship that I value and a relationship that I wanna keep on going for the future, so I think that there were definitely faults on both ends in the situation, and they acknowledged it, I acknowledged it as well, and then ultimately, like, you know, we found a common ground, so.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I'm curious, I get the feeling as I listen to you talk that there may also be a strength of judgment in there. And when I say
Yes,
judgment, yeah, that is kind of taking a step back and thinking through all of the pieces so that we can see each one clearly and then make an informed decision.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So a lot of times our strengths are blind spots, right? We don't see ourselves the way that we are. Did anything else come up for anybody? A strength, maybe a strength that you knew, like, oh, this is definitely me. Maybe not. Yeah, is it Dee Dee?
So I guess Dee,
Second.
yes.
Thank you.
So gratitude came up, which I know I have, but I think, so what I thought of as a situation was more personal and not so much work oriented, but I had gotten laid off from a job and I was devastated, and you go through that whole spiral. And then my mother got really sick and was sick for 6 months and died, and so during those 6 months, I was able to have gratitude for being able to be there. Because otherwise I'd be traveling 70% of the time and I would not have been home, I would not have been that person to do that. And even in the moment, I recognized every day, I'm so lucky I get to do this and take care of her. So I was proud of myself for being able to recognize that during going through such a hard moment.
Yeah. Dee Dee, thank you so much for sharing that with all of us, really. And also, I want to offer something I noticed as you told that story, and that is perhaps a strength of perspective. You know, taking a step back, looking at the big picture. How does that land?
Yes, absolutely.
Anyone else? Okay, this is, if you didn't come up with a strength, notice what you're saying to yourself, right? Because this takes time. We have to be in the mindset, right? And so Carol Dweck came up with this concept of mindset, and there are two mindsets that we can find ourselves in. And one is a fixed mindset where we think, I can't do this, or I have to do this to prove myself, or you feel like people are judging you, and so you judge others, or you believe that you cannot change, or even step back and avoid challenges maybe, or think when you make a mistake, think, oh, I'm a failure, or I'm not good enough. This is very common. Everyone has mindsets in both fixed and growth. So let me back up. Two types of mindsets, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. What does that mean? It means that our belief, what we believe about ourselves, influences what we think. What we think influences how we feel. And especially when the feelings are strong, how we feel influences what we do. So if we can notice, if we can build enough self-awareness to notice, how am I showing up here? Am I showing up with a fixed mindset, all those things I just talked about? Or do I have the ability to say, I'm going to work harder at this. I'm going to put some more effort in this because I'm not there yet. And that word yet, wow. There's the difference of I can't do it and I'm not there yet. There's a belief in the I'm not there yet that I can handle this, that I, with effort and maybe help from a friend or a professional or someone that supports you on a regular basis, that you can. And especially in times that are uncertainty, whether they're in your profession or whether they're in your personal life. You believe with a growth mindset that you can learn. This experience was hard and but I can learn something from it and move forward. Like Dee Dee just said, she reflected on her experience and she realized, wow, I got to be there and I'm grateful for that. And another place is embracing challenge. It could look like bring it on. Or it could look like I'm going to take one small step forward. And only you know. But again, it starts with just being aware. What am I thinking? Is this thought serving me? Okay, so as we wrap up, let's take a look at what strengths would you like to increase? Think about either at work right now or any situation that you're dealing with. Is there a strength that you would like to develop? Because the reason we just talked about mindset is, do we believe we can develop our strengths? Or do we believe that we are who we are and we're never going to change? And that choice is yours. What you believe and what you think is yours. With practice, we can change it. So just take a minute and just jot down what strengths you'd like to increase at work right now or in your life right now. And then maybe just think about what's one small thing you can do to move forward using this strength. And then we'll And of course, that invitation exists to bring this home as well. Does anyone want to share something that came up for them? Monica?
I would like to be a little bit kinder to myself.
I love that.
Allowing myself, step away from my desk more often in workshops like this.
Yeah. Often kindness is one thing I see again and again with my clients. We will have a strength of kindness for others, but we have to stop and think what that looks like to use that strength toward ourselves. So thank you for sharing that. Also, a lot of times we can overuse a strength. I see that a lot. Someone who appreciates excellence, not going where they want to go because it's not perfect. So that's an appreciation of excellence can be a strength if it's balanced, but if we overuse it, it looks like perfectionism and it gets in our way. Okay, so any key takeaways before we wrap up? Anything you want to just share from today, from that hour that we just spent together?
I think that whether you've been through something like this before in a different iteration or it's your first time, walking away with a reminder or a discovery of what your strengths are and having those top of mind and have those kind of swirl around and think about them is a good way to, leave the room, and then the work that you want to do with that afterwards.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Yeah, I just want to acknowledge your ability to reflect in the moment as you work through this. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
I think to add on that, just awareness. I feel like life goes in learning, just being more aware of these things and perspective. I don't think I've ever focused on the word strength in this particular frame of mind, and so I know I'll be taking that with me now outside of this room and seeing how I can apply it and just being more aware of my day-to-day practices.
Thank you, Paula. And I want to acknowledge your strength of self-awareness because I definitely notice it. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm just going to invite you to complete the evaluation that's in your packet. And otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I value your feedback. I run this workshop and I modify it based on the feedback that I get. So please feel free to make a comment. Also, if there's something that you want to share so that I can use on my website, please feel free to write that as well and just sign the bottom of that eval. Again, thank you so much. And thank you for your openness and your honesty and your showing up and participation. I really appreciate it.